Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the WodCAST podcast. I'm your host, Eddie Ift. Each and every week, I bring you this fabulous, tremendous, amazing show based in strength conditioning, health, fitness, functional fitness, CrossFit, whatever you can do. You know, like we talk to everybody about everything, but the bottom line is we like to bring an entertaining show about fitness to you. I say we, it's basically me. There's a lot of people that help out with the show. I'm the only one that hosts it, but there's a lot of people that make this thing work every week. When I say a lot, I mean like 5 people, but they really are the backbone of this show. Without them, I couldn't do it. Those people are like Machete. Machete's been with me since day one of podcasting, way back in the day. Did my first episode of Talking Shit. Went on to do the Bingle Show with me and has been with me since day one of the WodCAST podcast. We have Michael Fratelli there, who brings you all the wonderful videos on YouTube. If you're ever looking at them, he and Jeremy Lesniak work on those. Check them out, please. I hate to bitch about it, but I just can't find a reason why I can't get traction on. We're crushing it. We're crushing it on podcasting. Like I don't want to pat my back. But when it comes to CrossFit podcasts, I'm not going to say we're the biggest. But when it comes to CrossFit, we're up there. Might one or two, we're. But when it comes to YouTube, nothing. Is it me? Am I that ugly? I don't know what it is. Just don't want to see me. Well, I'm stepping up the production value to try to make it better. And once this COVID thing's over and I get to meet with them, I'll do some pretty interesting videos and stuff that we'll start uploading and make more creative. I'm really getting into it. So I'm spending some money on the show and trying to make it happen. There's a whole bunch of a host of people that help with this show, though. Troy over there at Myopucks and Leopard Claw has been the best supporter of the show since the beginning. Basically, if you give $5 a month to Patreon, you can get yourself a Leopard Claw and a Myopucks, which are two of the best tools that should be in your arsenal to clean up your body, get yourself back out there and lifting more weights and running around doing handstands and stuff. Look, no matter what, you get injured, whatever sport you do, anything. You don't do anything, you're going to get injured. I got a buddy who's got a bad back right now. He doesn't do a thing. I sent him over on Myopucks. He's in so much pain. Myopucks it's got a couple different settings. One, you can do pain relief. The other, you can basically pump the muscles to make the blood flow to expedite the inflammatory process and make yourself healthier. It's gonna make you recover quicker. And it works. It works really, really well. So there's that. And then there's also the Leopard Claw, which I was just using last night on my ankle to scrape it. When I say scrape, I'm basically identifying anywhere there's adhesions, and I'm trying to kind of break those adhesions up and clean up that area to give me more range of motion, more blood flow, and ultimately be a better athlete. So if you donate $5 a month on our Patreon, which is patreon.com/WodCastPodcast or WodCastPodcast.com/Patreon, if you go to those, they're on our website. You just donate. You're going to get that. And you're also going to get, and this is the first month it's happening, I'm uploading it today, there will be an additional episode every single month. So there's 4 episodes on the regular site, 5 counting Patreon. The one I did was just with Hunter and Bobby. It was pretty funny. It's a 30, 40, 50 one. I'm going to do some special episodes. I'm going to talk to a good buddy of mine, Shane Moss, who's a comedian who actually, I think he did CrossFit for a little bit. He is an expert on psychedelic drugs. I'm going to talk to him all about them. I've never done any. Just very interested in talking about psilocybin. Things like that. There'll be different episodes off the beaten path, a little bit of what I usually do on the WodCAST, and hopefully some funnier ones. Maybe I'll have some comedians on. But I hope you will enjoy those, and that's just another incentive to go to the Patreon, because that is going to be the only place you can find those, is on the Patreon. So trying to build up this Patreon. Look, if it was up to me, this would just be a Patreon-only show, and there would be no sponsors, no commercials. I do talk about some sponsors excessively because I do believe in them. I believe in all my sponsors, but I have these, like, you'll hear me. We have a new sponsor coming on. I'm not even, like, we haven't even signed the deal. I think we signed the deal with them. But we seek them out because I like them so much. It's called Magic Spoon Cereal. I'm doing a free commercial for them right now. This shit's so fucking good. That's all I want to say. That should be the commercial. It's cereal. I grew up on fruity cereal. Like, if you went in my closet or my pantry at home when I was a kid, there were 5 kids, and there were probably like 25 different sugar cereals, from Lucky Charms to Count Chocula to Frosted Mini Wheats. We had everything. All the neighbors' kids used to come over till it was like, my mom was like the meth dealer of sugar, of like cereal. And all the kids, all the little junkies would come over on Fridays because they knew that's when my mom would go grocery shopping. And the cereal would come in, and just boxes would just go off the shelf. And, we'd be pouring cereal on top of cereal, and just pouring whole milk into it and just going to town. Well, you can't do that anymore. We've learned differently. And, but I still love cereal. So this Magic Spoon cereal, I can't believe this is like a free commercial. It's so good. There's so many different flavors and stuff, and it's just, don't go buy it yet. Wait till we give you a code. We'll give you a discount code to buy it, because it is fairly expensive because it's all protein. It's like protein cereal. But like I said, don't buy it yet, because they like to see that we are giving them traction. Like, they want to know, because I want them to be a sponsor forever so that I can get the cereal for the rest of my life. Okay, moving on. We don't have any other sponsors for today's show. This is you guys. This is all a Patreon show. Like, you guys gotta get on it. And I want to tell you who the winner was. Somebody told me I don't tell who the winners are. I always tell. Okay, I've missed a few times. Here is the winner. Nate won last week. This week is Darren Strallo. Strallo. Thanks, Darren. I appreciate it. And you'll be hearing from Troy, and you will be getting a Maya Pucks and a Leopard Claw, and we thank you and everyone else that is given to the Patreon. Okay, let's get to this. Before we get to this week's episode, can I talk to you about Bert Kreischer, please? Gordon Wagner started it. I did not start this whole idea. It's not really my thing to do like publicity stunts by any means, but I'm gonna admit I do get irritated by it. Bert Kreischer, who is a good friend of mine, really good friend of mine. I really, really like Bert. I've known him for 25 years, and he is a hilarious comedian, but he's constantly doing these like exercise things, and he constantly talks about it on social media, if it's running a marathon or giving up alcohol, whatever his fitness challenge is. And he just talks about how he's this amazing athlete, and he has this Mickey Mantle gene because he can party all night and still run and lift or do whatever he does. And the truth is, I love Bert, but he's a fat piece of shit. And he won't. Gordon kind of challenged him to doing the CrossFit Open, which I know Bert has gone to CrossFit before. And he said, why don't you go up against Eddie Ift? And he'll answer my texts when I text him about comedy or anything else. Second I talk to him about exercise, nothing. And all I'm saying is, hey, Bert, let's do the 60-plus women. We'll scale it. This year they even have in the Open, they've got that calisthenics one and the scaled. I mean, they're giving you every option. And I'm just saying, I'll give him whatever he wants. But I'm just sick of him talking about how amazing he is when, look, we all know it. I'm going to crush him. I will crush him. And he will not even acknowledge it. And so I love it. I'm watching a lot of you guys have written to him on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. I see it all the time because I always get copied on it. And you're torturing him. Please send him pictures, send him videos, send him stuff. Just make fun of the fact that he is afraid to take my challenge. He's like Apollo Creed and I'm Rocky, and we all know I'm gonna beat him. He just, I mean, yeah, they had a tie, but everybody knows Rocky really won. He won't even acknowledge it. So I would love the more you guys. I've even talked like to Puma about sponsoring it. I've talked to. It would be a funny thing to watch us do the Open. And that makes me have to do it, which I hate doing the Open. I hate putting my scores out there. I hate like trying hard and almost like killing myself, but I will do it just to beat Bert. So, yeah. So go at him. He's at Bert Kreischer. You'll see him. He's the chubby guy without the shirt on. Here it is then. Speaking of chubby guys without shirts on, our guest today has never been called that. Our guest today is probably I'm not gay, but let me tell you something. If I was, oh my God, this guy's got the best body I've ever seen in my life. He's like a physical specimen. If you were going to design the human body, you'd go, okay, let's do this. Let's get Marcus Filly, and then we're going to change nothing. He's got his own programming. It's not like a bodybuilder. It's so hard for me to say. He's got a great body. But he's a super athlete too. The guy's made the games a number of times as an individual and as a team member. Really, really smart guy, really nice and fun to talk to, and just an incredible business. So many trainer friends of mine have recommended his stuff to people because it's just, there's such a variety, and he doesn't miss anything, and he focuses on everything, and just really, really good stuff, and a great conversation. So please enjoy this episode with Marcus Filly. Oh my God. You even have it looks like you've got like studio lighting and there's like camera angles. Like you're like,
this doesn't happen by accident.
Do you do a lot of these?
I've done a fair share. Yeah. We Zoom every day to talk to clients and talk to, colleagues, coworkers. So I just was tired of looking at dark screens and was like, I got to get a decent light. I got to get a decent microphone. I got to get a decent camera. And so took care of it.
I have been through every iteration of, I have a school bus, a short school bus that I have turned into a studio. We spent about $80,000 building this thing out, and I could.
You're going to spend all your time in it. I love it.
I could sell it for about $50 right now. And it's just been a total money pit, and it was a giant mistake. I had someone looking at it today.
Really?
Yeah.
I literally I've spent probably more time than is necessary looking into the build out of various mobile offices, studios, travel device, just things like that. I hadn't thought of a school bus, but they've got all kinds of companies that are retrofitting. Dodge Ram vans.
I'll let you see. This is my studio. And
that's sick.
Yeah, it is. And my wife is like forcing me to sell it. She hates it.
Wow.
Because it sits in our driveway. It doesn't look good. A grown man with a school bus,
and it doesn't add square footage to the home for resale value.
Not at all.
So it's not really helping.
Not at all. And it's so funny because she's like, sell it. And then we'll just build a studio in the backyard. And I'm like, wait, why are we going to sell one studio to just build another?
Well, that permanence factor, the next resident is going to like it.
Oh, yeah, because everybody now has a podcast. So,
Well, they got something that they want to do in the back studio. Yeah. I mean, everyone's craving a studio right now. They get the hell out of their house and go explore some new, 10 by 10 space.
But
right?
it's like there's so many podcasts now. This is a joke I made like 10 years ago, and it's come true, where I said it's going to get to the point where nobody's listening to podcasts because everybody's just making a podcast. Like, did you hear that No, I couldn't, man. I was making my own. I mean, my gardener 5 years ago was talking to me one day, and he was like, hey man, I'm thinking about starting a podcast about gardening. And I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, go ahead, everyone. Why not? Why not? There's a
Why not?
podcast about it. It's the
What point would you consider, like, if you started a podcast before blank, you've got my respect. If you started it after that, I don't care how good you're doing. You're just a sheep following others.
I don't know, but I'm always the guy that I do things before anybody does them, and then it doesn't make it, and then everybody else does it. Like I remember I did a podcast before Rogan. I did this podcast called Wingmen with a guy named Brian Callen, who since has been in a little bit of trouble. He was Me Too'd. But we did this podcast, and it was like, I want to say like 2004 or something. Like,
whoa.
And it ran for like a year, and then we stopped doing it. And then I started talking shit in probably 2010 or 2009. And I've just been doing it forever. I've been doing it out of like I couldn't do anything else. Yeah, like Hollywood shut down on me being a white male. I started going to auditions, and they were like, no, you're not, there's something missing. It's like, I know what that is. And so I was like, well, I got to just do my own thing. And so I started doing podcasts, and doing the WodCAST was a total joke. It was
really,
yeah.
How'd it get started? Because I just looked up, like I was just curious. I'm like, where am I going to land in the episode list? And I was like, oh man, 400, 500.
Yeah.
I mean, you're deep into this.
Well, I've tried to get you a couple times. You were having a baby. I couldn't come on because you had a baby. I mean, like that's important.
I don't remember declining anything or accepting anything during that period of time, so I can't be held responsible for that phase of my life.
Yeah, I've got a 1.5-year-old. I still don't know that. I don't know if I'm awake right now. What happened was I was doing talking shit. I said, just as a joke, I was going to do a podcast on CrossFit. No one had ever done it. I was like, I'm going to do a podcast on CrossFit. I'm going to make fun of CrossFit.
Nice.
I didn't even know Armin Amirian, but I had read a funny blog he did about how everyone takes their shirt off in CrossFit. And I was like, this guy's kind of funny. And I was like, you want to come be my first guest? And then I was like, hey, you want to be my partner? And then we had Kenny Kane. I don't know if you know Kenny Kane, CrossFit LA.
Of course.
We had Kenny as our first guest, and Kenny's like, yeah, I'll co-host it with you guys. So the three of us did it for about a year and a half together, and then it just started morphing into... And now I think we've had every single person in CrossFit except for you.
I was going to say, we must be just totally tying everything, all the loose ends together right now.
And this is the final episode. And
we're shutting it down, and I'm going back to try and revitalize the 2004 podcast that tanked.
And I thought I'd end it with you. No, we were like... we waited till we had video for you because people need to see the this is the first time I've seen you with a shirt on, I think. Yeah.
It's the first time I've worn a shirt.
Do you like, I would never, I wouldn't own a shirt if I was you.
I've heard that before.
I literally would not own a shirt. I'd be like Matthew McConaughey, just constantly shirtless. I would just.
I wonder if he was feeling that when he was doing his role for Dallas Buyers Club. If he was Mr. Shirtless when he was
when he lost all the weight.
That look.
I have a buddy who's a nutritionist who's been on the show a bunch. That's his job. He's like such an expert with nutrition. He knows how to get people in a healthy way.
To starve themselves?
Yeah, pretty much just make sure they still have all the nutrients that they need to function when they're doing that like massive weight loss for a film project. Because it's not healthy. There's nothing healthy about it.
Oh no.
But
I actually read or listened to Matthew McConaughey's book Green Lights this summer, or a couple months back when it was released. He talks about that, and it was like he ate like the same thing every day. It was like basically like lemon juice and fish, or lemon juice and egg whites, and then he could drink as much wine at night as he wanted. I was like, that's and he was like, that worked. He dropped 30, 40 pounds.
All right.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah, I could see him with the wine.
Yeah.
He's one of those guys that in Hollywood, like, Andy Dick's one, where anybody that's met Andy Dick, which almost everyone has an Andy Dick story, like about their time with Andy Dick. And I've got like 20 Andy Dick stories, and they're all like, no. And I'm like, yeah, he jerked off in my bed. Yeah. He came to my house to do a podcast. He got so wasted, he stayed at my house. I left my house and went and stayed with my girlfriend for a while. Girlfriend who's now my wife. And we could not get Andy out of my house. And I would run into him in Venice, where I lived at the time, and he'd be like, I'm still at your house. And I'm like, I know, I'm calling the police. And he'd be like, I jerked off in your bed. And I'd be like, okay, now I'm definitely calling the police. So everybody has an Andy Dick story, but everybody also has a Matthew McConaughey story. Like people.
Oh, wow.
And one day the intern who used to work on this show told me, he's like, he grew up in Malibu, and there's this place called Paradise Cove, which are these little trailers on the beach. And these little trailers go for like $3 million. Like they're real, like single wide trailers.
Just like your bus.
Yeah. It's crazy.
The studio bus.
Everyone in Malibu's batshit crazy. But so he grew up there, and Matthew McConaughey lived there for a while he was like building one of his mansions. And he's like, hey, I got this like tape. One night Matthew McConaughey came over to my place really drunk, and we played music together. And I'm like, can I hear it? He's like, yeah. I'm like, can I play it on the podcast? He's like, yeah, go ahead. But he's like just batshit crazy, which I love.
I mean, that was my take from the book.
Yeah.
And that was like, he learned how to like harness that and channel it into success too, which is cool.
Yeah. Because a lot of people go the other way.
Which is craziness leads to more craziness, leads to pain and suffering.
Yeah. Institutionalized or in a prison somewhere. Yeah. I've had friends go that route too.
But you need to have a little bit of that crazy to get the mega success. I think I've just been I'm not crazy enough. That was me in CrossFit as an athlete. It's me just in general. It's like I'm ambitious, and I'll work hard and I'll follow a plan, but I was never crazy enough to like get the podium at the CrossFit Games.
You had what? You had 5 different games? Did you go 5 times?
Yeah, I did three individuals and 3 teams. So
6 times.
6 times. Yeah. I don't know if, I mean, I obviously count the times you went as a team member, but really, I think that the games really shifted in 2012 to like a format that, was one that people really like, oh, it took a lot to get there. Whereas in 2010, like we were just kind of just throwing a team together. We had a regionals, but it was like, we didn't know what we were doing. And, we were just a little bit more athletic than the rest of the
what was your gym? What was your gym that you went through?
TJ's gym.
Oh, yeah. But didn't TJ's, if I remember correct, I worked out there one time up in the one in like Mill Valley.
So, that was the one I owned that one for I mean, I was a co-owner for 5 years. 4 years.
I used to go up and do this what was it called? It's still on. It's one of my favorite shows. It's Sarah and Vinny, the Alice Morning Show.
Oh yeah.
And so I was always up there, and I would perform at the Throckmorton sometimes. Right, Mill Valley.
Yeah. And that's where I grew up, man. I mean, we've been there. I remember you going to see Dana Carvey and Robin Williams would frequent that little spot too.
Yeah, Robin one time. I'm there, and I'm about to go on, and they come in and they're like, "Hey, Robin's here." And in comedy, you step aside. Like if somebody famous comes in, you step aside to let them go on. It's like no matter if you're like about to walk on the stage. I've had it happen a million times. It happens to everybody, but they'll be like, Dave Chappelle's here right now and he wants to go on, and you're like, oh fuck. Like Seinfeld wants to go on, and you're like,
right.
And some people try to do it that aren't so famous. Like one time Carlos Mencia tried to do it to me. They're like, Carlos Mencia's here and he wants to go on. I'm like, too bad. And they're like, yeah, but I'm like, I don't give a shit. Tell him to come talk to me. But so they said to me, they're like, Robin's here and he wants to go on. And it's funny. I'm like working on a book right now, and I was just writing this story. Robin, I don't want to say bad things about a guy that's no longer with us, because he is an amazing comedian, but he was notorious. He had a bad reputation for stealing jokes. And it was a well-known thing in the comedy world. And he admitted to it. He would pay guys after he would steal and be like, I didn't mean to. I can't help it. But people would say you never really want to perform in front of him because your act will end up somewhere bigger. You know, like you'll be watching The Tonight Show and he'll be doing it sitting talking to Leno. Yeah. So people said, I said, oh, okay, well, he can headline then. You know, like Robin's going to headline instead of me, obviously. And people go, you want to go on before Robin? You want him to see your stuff? And I was like, I don't give a shit. I hope to see Robin Williams do my shit. You know, I'll be like, that's my joke. And so I said to Robin, I went up to him and I said, hey, I guess I'll go on and then you can go on after me. And he goes, oh, no, you still headline. And I was like, no, they're going to be much happier to see you than they are me. You go on. And he's like, no, my little friend, you go on. And he goes, I'm not going to do a stand-up. I'll come on after you, and I'll do some improv, and you do it with me. And I go, I'm not really an improv guy. It's not my thing, because I'm not. And it's like saying, hey, you want to come on and do some synchronized swimming with me? No, I don't know how to do that shit. So I go on, I do my set, and I have a really good set. I was like happy with it. And I get off, and I'm like, and now they're going to have Robin Williams. They're going to be so happy. He comes out, and he's like, hey, how about it for Eddie? And they're like, yeah. And he goes, you want to see more of them? And they're like, yeah. And he's like, come on out here, Eddie. And he's like, come on. And I'm like, I don't want to do this.
Oh, man, brutal.
So he starts, like, dancing around me and, like, being funny, and they're all dying laughing, and I'm just standing there like, I'm done. I don't want to do this. And the microphone's right in front of me, and I go, oh, it's going to be so sad when they take one of my heroes away in a straitjacket. And the audience just starts laughing. And he looks at me like, I can't believe you just said that. And and he goes, oh, is that funny? And he goes, oh, and then he does something else like funny, and they all laugh. And he goes, okay, now your turn. Your turn. Be funny, Mr. Funny Guy, or something like that. Like he's mad. And I go, did this just turn into 8 Mile? And and the audience starts laughing, and he gets more mad. So he starts like pulling props out, and he starts like doing really funny shit, like impersonating people and doing. And now I'm stuck there, and he's like, not so funny now, are we? And I'm like, oh my God, I pissed off Robin Williams like so badly that I finally just walk off the stage. And and he's like, he goes on to do his thing, and we were supposed to have this little party afterwards, and he walks off and he storms past me, and I try to say, hey, like, sorry if I, but what I found out off stage, he had just gotten out of rehab. And I had made the comment about, I said something about like whatever medication he's on, obviously he's doing this. And so he's got like performance enhancing drugs or some joke like that. So his friend's like, yeah, he was really upset. He storms past me and goes home, like gets in his car and leaves. And his friend goes, I go, did I piss him off? He goes, yeah. And I'm like, oh no, like I've just upset Robin Williams. And I go, I just felt stupid up there. He's good with these characters and all these. And he goes, I don't do that. He goes, well, Robin doesn't really know who he is. So that's why Robin does characters and does impersonations. And I went, he goes, he'll get over it. And I was like, oh, great. I don't think I'm going to be in, Mrs. Doubtfire 2.
No. So then you woke up the next morning, you're like, I got to go down to TJ's Mill Valley and sweat it out.
I think I'm not kidding. I think that's when I was. There was there was a little hotel.
I need to get some. I need my own therapy, Marcus. There was coaching today.
There was a little hotel like across the street.
Yeah, that hotel's sweet.
Yeah, it is sweet. And I would stay there because I didn't.
Mill Valley Inn.
Yeah, because I didn't want to. No. I stayed there whenever I played the Throckmorton. But I was at the Punchline for like.
The place across the street from us. Yeah. It was like a Holiday Inn. It's changed ownership a bunch, but it's right there.
Yeah, and it's got all the trails in the back and everything. So so I would like stay there and then come over to your gym. And
awesome.
But I went on the radio the next day, and they're like, "Hey, we heard what happened last night." And I'm like, "No, don't talk about it." And they're like, "We're gonna." They were friends with Robin. They're like, "We're gonna call Robin, and we'll get him on." I'm like, "No, let's end this." Like, and then
squash it.
And then when he died, I felt so bad. I was like, "Oh, my only interaction with Robin is I pissed him off." So Yeah, but I remember that gym still exists, correct?
Yeah, I was actually just driving, my parents live up the road from there, so we drive by with our kids, regularly to go and visit. And we pulled over to what did we need to get at the Walgreens right there? There's a Walgreens in the parking lot now. I think there maybe always was, but yeah, we swung by and I was like sitting in the car waiting for my wife to grab something out of the store, and I said, hey kids, you want to see where daddy used to work? And we just like walked, this is like 3 days ago. We walked up to the window. I was like looking in, showing them like what we used to do in there and stuff. And yeah, I mean, it's still there.
So you owned it.
Yeah. So TJ was my business partner, he and his wife. And then we kind of, it was a 50-50 deal, more or less, they had an existing couple gyms, 3 gyms that they were running at the time. And then they were looking to expand a 4th location. And I was kind of the up and coming coach and aspiring, business owner and just aspiring fitness professional in their organization. And they knew it was like, okay, he's either going to go and open his own thing, or we can like, find a way to partner with him. And I was youngish. I mean, I was 24, and I was like, I didn't have the guts to be like, okay, I'm going out on my own. I'm going to do my own thing. So I just worked within the existing kind of framework that they had built. And we just opened up a satellite location in my hometown, which just felt right. And it was just like a dream come true. And I put up I put up most of the startup capital to get that location going. And then I just ran it. Like it was basically my own, they had their name on the board.
Because I remember they were one of the first gyms to have multiple locations.
Sure.
And it was a big deal because that's back when you weren't supposed to be able to have an affiliate, like 2 affiliates. Right. And you'd have to put them in like other people's names and stuff like that, which is such a stupid concept. But
that doesn't exist anymore, really. You can like have as many as you want now, or I don't know what the rules.
I hope so. Because it just was a dumb rule. But I remember, I think it was TJ's and Diablo was really good too as a team.
Yep.
And I forget. I don't think you were there when I was there. I forget. I forget who. I went in a couple times and worked out on my own, and then one time took a class. But I think it was a woman that taught my class. But I remember like. There was something that TJ's was like famous for, and it wasn't just because you guys went to the games, because that was the thing. You were like a super team. It was like, well, wait a minute, these guys have members from 4 different gyms, that are.
Yeah, they tried to pop us on that, right? Yeah, which then was like, okay, we all have to train at the same gym, and which pissed people off. It like pissed off my mid-30s teammates who were like, I got kids, I can't take the time to drive 5 minutes out of my way to go to practice. And it was hilarious. We also had TJ and his wife Allison had started the Norcal Masters competition, which at the time was like a pretty big, over 40, then it became over 35, but it was like the over 40 competition. It gave kind of like the games regional feel to the 40-year-old plus before Masters division existed. At the games.
I remember because Kenny Kane competed in that, I'm pretty sure.
Totally. Yeah. He was, I got to see him year after year at that. And it was a super cool event. It ended up getting hosted in this like epic venue out in Richmond, California, just across the bay bridge, on this waterfront with this massive warehouse that had these glass windows that just faced the bay. And, we built a rig in there. Yeah, it was sick. And so that got us, a decent amount of notoriety in the community, as like we coach masters, we do masters competitions. And then, we were just like, we were the CrossFit franchise that had 4 locations.
But what were you doing prior? Like, first of all, where'd you go to high school at Mill Valley?
At Tam High, yeah.
Okay.
There's the Tam High in Mill Valley. That's the public school, and then there's a couple.
Is that the one you drive past as you're going into Mill Valley on the left, and you see the football field right there?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, I know that one. And then you just got straight into fitness right after that, or did you go to college? What was it?
I mean, I was into fitness during high school for sure. But I was on the traditional track. I went to college, went to UC Berkeley, played collegiate soccer, and was a pre-med. So studied my ass off, got straight A's in college, and took the, MCATs, the a graduate level test to get into med school,
Right.
whatever. And applied to medical school, went to medical school for a year. Every intention of going and just becoming a doctor. That was the path I was on. After about 6 months, I really started to question what I was doing, and then committed to finishing the year at least, because everyone I had ever talked to said the first year of medical school was brutal.
I've heard that.
Yeah. I'm like, okay, why am I thinking I'm different? Like, I just got to get through this. And I did, and there was like we still had a summer break that first year. Pretty much after year 2 in medical school, your summers are pretty much consumed with internships and, doing rotations and just getting more education. So I took my last summer to go and travel a bit with my friend, came back, thinking it was going to be a better year. Right. And then I was like a week into year 2, and just immediately all of like the dark, depressing feelings of my first year came back, kind of the hopelessness. Like I'm on this like path towards nothing I'm excited about. And I am just craving to be part of the health and fitness community, and the medical world, healthcare, that traditional healthcare system doesn't inspire me at all. And so I just it was one of the few times in my life where I just couldn't push through anymore. I literally was like, I can't open a book. Like, I'm not going to study this stuff. I gotta go a different direction. And that was when I knew something was like different. I'm like, I'm not going to just set some arbitrary date to like push through till. I'm like, I got to stop. I got to go and explore another option. And then if it doesn't work, they're going to give me a year leave of absence, and I can come back and finish medical school. But in the meantime, I'm out. I got to get out of here. I mean, it was brutally challenging to make.
Where were you at medical school?
Ohio State University. So Columbus, Ohio. Yeah. Which for a California kid was like, I was a little out of place. Columbus is a great city. It was a great school, and I got nothing bad to say about any of it. Other than I just didn't feel like I was around people that I connected with.
Yeah.
It's funny because I was like, the CrossFit community was my community before they existed. That was who I wanted to be around. I wanted to be around people that wanted to move, people that wanted to eat right, people that wanted to, build relationships in and around health and wellness. And, the Midwest and Columbus and medical students in general were just not the healthiest individuals.
Yeah.
People they were drinking 3 nights a week, 4 nights a week. They were pushing, they were eating fast food. There was a Wendy's in the basement of the library. It was like, that was normal. And I was like, this is just really hard. Plus, somebody who grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area experiencing their first Midwest winter, it was like, I was not ready. Like, I didn't even go with a winter coat. I didn't know what the hell that was. I'm like, you mean a hoodie? Like, I'm good, right? I'll be fine. And I just remember the first snow was like beautiful. And then it melted, and then it turned to ice, and then it was ice for the next 3 months. And I shit you not, they didn't salt the sidewalks between my little apartment and the medical campus. So I walked on it was like an ice rink to get to school. And I remember a month into the winter, it was cold, and my apartment was like, it was a house that had been a Victorian house that had been converted into like a 4 or 5 units. Right. And the thermostat in the house was in a different unit. So I didn't control the central heating at all. And my heating in my place sucked. And I was a cheapo. I was like, I got all this debt. Like, I'm not going to waste money on a space heater, run my electricity bill up. So I'm like trying to go minimalist. And I just remember waking up one morning in my bed, and I'm just like breathing, just like pure, like frost, like icicles coming out of my face. And I would have to literally like pull the covers off, sprint to the bathroom, close the door, like turn on the hot water, and just like wait in there shivering till that. And I was like, and then that morning on my way to school, like I stopped off at like the corner, university cafe, got a horrible coffee. I just remember it being so bad that I had to put like 5 or 6 like artificial sweeteners in there just to like get it down. And I step outside on the ice, and I just like Superman fall And I just sat there and I didn't even try and get up quickly and like shake it off and like, like shake off the embarrassment. I was just like, fuck my life. Like, this is my life. I'm just like, I'm laid out on the ice in Columbus. My room is freezing. This coffee sucks. And I'm going to learn about, pharmacology right now. And I'm like, this isn't right.
It's, as you painted that picture, I was thinking, I grew up in Pittsburgh, which is very similar to Columbus. And just thinking how rough it was, but it was all I knew. It was all I knew. And now I live in Malibu and life is great. But if you made me go back to that, it would bring back a lot of like horrific memories of like they weren't bad then, but they're bad now because I'm like, oh, there was an alternative to that. And it's like, I travel all over the world and I'm in places that are, I spent some time in Alaska the last couple of years doing shows up there, and I go for 4 or 5 days, and I like the people, and I like it's beautiful and it's gorgeous when there's daylight, but it's dark for so long that it's so depressing. And, everybody criticizes California and our taxes and everything, and I'm like, it's a cover charge. It's a really nice place, and it costs a lot to go there and be there because it's really nice. Like the ocean is gorgeous and the sunsets and the mountains and it's in the desert. It's really, really nice. And we're spoiled. We're spoiled like rotten. And when you go to that, I can understand that just being a culture shock for you that is unbelievable. Do you think that if you had like, say, gone to medical school at Stanford, things would have been different?
Totally. Yeah. Yeah, I do. I mean, and I tried to get into the California schools and I interviewed a handful of them. And, my dream was to just go across the bridge to UCSF. My folks worked there and wanted to stay kind of basically local. I mean, I went to Berkeley and for undergrad and go to UCSF for, graduate school. I think I would have probably stuck it out for a long time. And I probably would have ended up in some field of medicine where, I might have gotten my MD and then done some research or done a residency in just general medicine and then taken off to go and find a way to, blend that
doing.
Yeah. Blend what I'm doing now or some form of it. I mean, I was pretty captivated by the CrossFit scene at the time, in 2009 was when I was at medical school and, Columbus, Ohio, you think of like Rogue Fitness for sure. Right. But at the time, Rogue Fitness was a small little outpost, not even in downtown Columbus, like way off in a suburb. And it was just like, it was called CrossFit Gahanna. And it was like, kind of like, and we do Rogue Fitness over here. And they didn't even have like they made like a little squat stand and maybe a pull-up bar, but they didn't have, anything else. And I remember going there. That was the closest gym. I had to drive 30 minutes if I wanted to go to a CrossFit gym. So I never actually joined a CrossFit gym until after medical school, really. And I remember going when I interviewed there, looked at the area. I took my rental car out to CrossFit Gahanna, and the coach of the night was this girl named Katie Motter, and I was like, how do I recognize you? She's like, oh, I just was at the CrossFit Games in Aromas, and I'm like, oh yeah, you won. You won. Like it was hilarious, and I think we did. They had just introduced the concept of chest to bar pull-ups at that games. It was 2008. They had just done the every second counts, and there was the chest to bar Fran. That wasn't a standard prior to that. So we did Cindy in class, 5, 10, 15 pull up, push up, squat, 20-minute AMRAP. And they're like, okay, we're doing chest to bars today. And I'd never done them. And I'm like, what? Like, why are we going to do chest to bars? Like, I want to compare this to like how I've done it in the past. Yeah. And they had these pull up bars that were like on the roof that like I had to climb up like a 24-inch box just to reach it. I'm like, this is absurd. Like, how can, so that was my experience there. And
you're like,
I was like, I'm just going to work out.
Ohio, I'm out of here.
Yeah. I'm going to work out at the university gym, which was sick. But it was funny because like they had rowing machines there, but they were on the top floor of like a 3-story kind of open air thing. And there was an indoor track up there. So if I wanted to do like a rowing workout that had squats in it, I'd literally have to go 3 floors. I'd be racing up and down the stairs. I'd try and keep a squat rack with like a barbell set up and go back and forth. It was pretty fun.
I've had so many. I travel so much, because of touring, because of stand up, that I've worked out at so many different gyms with so many awkward situations of like, I've told people I've climbed in and out of windows to like do a workout. There was a gym in New York City where all the runs, you go down like 5 flights of stairs, then out on the street and then back. And as you're running back, you're like, oh my God, I've got to go up those stairs. Like, this is brutal.
Man, those New York City gyms, I don't understand that whole concept. That was always brutal to me.
So many brutal ones. But I'm curious, a couple things. Your parents, are they in the medical field?
Yeah. So dad was a physician. Mom was an ultrasonographer, and brother
what is that?
Was also ultrasonographer. So
sonogram?
Ultrasound is yeah, just like the technicians that operate, the ultrasound machines.
Okay.
Perform sonograms.
So weirdly, I'm asking weird questions today. I love medicine, love it.
Yeah,
I'm an idiot. Like, I cheated my way through college. I'm not a smart person. I never got good grades in anything. I could have never gone to medical school. But if you said dream job, I'd love to be a doctor. And I'd love to help people, and I'd love to like I love to do it now, just with like the knowledge I have from like CrossFit, just of like helping people with nutrition or helping people with physical therapy and stuff like that. When my friend's like, I'm going to ice this, I'm like, whoa. Like, don't ice that right now. Like, you move it, And I know like just a teeny tiny bit, but I also see a lot of the problems with like you were talking about, like we have a pill to fix everything rather than be proactive. We're reactive. And I have a friend that's a kidney specialist who eats McDonald's every day and really doesn't find that to be a problem. And I've got a lot of doctor friends, and they are just like, let's cure things with pills. We studied medicine. We know the medicine that fixes everything. And I think a lot of times in like the CrossFit world and the more natural world, it's, well, we fix it with natural things. And it's like, well, I heard Peter Attia one time talking about how supplements are just drugs that haven't been approved by the FDA. Like you can do Tylenol or you can do curcumin. It's,
right.
What's the difference? But what I'm getting to is I would love to blend the two and try to find a better world. And I don't have the capability. You obviously have the capability, and you're not to. Isn't there something with like the knowledge that you've acquired from doing what you do in fitness and how much you know and how much you've been able to help people? Don't you think there's still ways to acquire more knowledge in the medical world that you could blend the two still?
Yeah, I mean, there are. I just feel like at this stage of my life, where my passions and my interests lie, that ship is sort of sailed. Like, I don't mean to say like I'm not going to continue to educate myself and learn. But that phase of life to like, reinvent myself, go and like, not that education is a selfish pursuit, but you have to kind of be selfish during a very focused period of educating yourself. Like medical school, I don't know, people like trying to live balanced lives as medical students. It's like, it's crazy. It's like, there's so much information you got to learn. You're not going to exactly be the most accessible human being to others during your time trying to, take on this massive amount of information. So with 2 young kids, kind of at this phase of life, it's like, that's not my path anymore. And I knew I was stepping away from that. And to me, it's like what you said, you get excited about helping others. You don't need medical education for that. Right. You don't need, you certainly that is a very noble pursuit to go and say, I'm going to take this higher level of education and this system that is incredibly, important to humanity, but has some fundamental flaws in certain aspects of it. And I'm going to try and bridge some gap. And there's plenty of, smart people out there doing that right now. It's not like, oh, it's going to happen. No, they're doing it. It's like, there's functional medicine doctors that have, medical degrees that are also taking that information, what they've learned from the naturopathic community, as well as like, the strength conditioning world, and they're doing stuff with it that is going to be groundbreaking, not only now, but in the future. But that's just not my calling. It's not anymore. Right now I'm here to, continue to inspire people through what I've kind of carved out as my own little part of the fitness community, get more people interested in moving their bodies in sustainable ways for the long term. So I'm like inside fitness, like, outside of CrossFit, but just the bigger fitness, bubble. Most people are looking at fitness as a fix, just like they're looking at fitness as medication, as a fix for their illnesses, right? They're like, I have too much fat. I need to go fix it with 3 months of fitness. I have, whatever. It's usually aesthetics or, something about their appearance that they want to change. But even if it's like doctor says, hey, you need to go and, lose some weight. Okay. Because you're unhealthy, whatever. You're going to go and do fitness for a defined period of time to lose the weight. The vast majority of people look at it that way. So I'm like, okay, well, my mission is then to teach people how to make fitness part of their life, make it sustainable, make it enjoyable for the long term, and talk about, let's not approach fitness like something that's going to be over in 2 months that you want to pack as much into as you possibly can. And I think this is the CrossFit culture a little bit, is like, I got to get after it today. Right.
Yeah.
If I don't win today, I'm going to lose. It's like, actually think about your workout today as a piece of a 20-year journey. Then why are you trying to RX plus it? Like, just fucking scale it, like, just scale it and move well and finish middle of the pack.
Yeah.
And guess what? You'll be here next week, and you'll be here next month, and you'll be here next year.
I just told this on the last episode, so listeners are going to hate me, but I'll tell it for you. I met with James Fitzgerald one time down in Scottsdale, and he said, "What's your goal in life?" He goes, "Do you want to live long and healthy?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Do you want to be like moving when you're 90?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "You want to climb a mountain when you're 90?" I go, "Yeah." He goes, "Is that like a goal?" I go, "Yeah. I'd love to be able to like climb a mountain when I'm 90." He goes, "Is what you're doing right now going to get you there?" Like, talking about my CrossFit. And I said, "Oh, no, not at all." No. And he goes, "Okay, well, then you need to rethink your entire philosophy about how you work out, and you need to reverse engineer from 90 years old, climbing a mountain. How are you going to get there? What is it going to take?" And I was like, and I didn't talk about this, but he said, "Let's break it down. What are you doing?" And I was, again, trying to push it all the time to get as good as I could get at CrossFit and as strong and be not competitive, because I was never, ever going to be competitive in CrossFit. Like, I just didn't have that ability, and I started later in life. But I said, I probably need a lot more, range of motion, yoga type stuff, like working on my flexibility, working on, controlling this, controlling like form. And he goes, "Okay, then doing, Fran for, is that going to get you there?" And I was like, "No." He's like, "We need to work on some more functional stuff and slow some stuff down." And he's like, "I'm not telling you to not do sprints or to not do this or to not do that." But, and it really made me look at everything I was doing. And there were exercises I threw out, like things like, I just stopped doing handstand push-ups. That was like the last time I ever did a handstand push. I'm like, I'll just do a push press. I'll do. There's no reason for that. No, why take that risk?
Well,
there were a whole bunch of things.
James has been a mentor of mine for years, and he's was my first coach in CrossFit, and the person that really made me even want to do the sport. And it's conversations like that with him over the years, or just listening to him speak, that have maybe like really asked some fundamental questions about, what are we doing with fitness? Why are we on this journey? What's the purpose of how we're going about it? Like, when he was already on the outs with CrossFit and sort of like taking this very critical look at like, well, what are we all fucking doing? Like, why are you guys doing all this? I was like deep in the trenches of like CrossFit gym ownership. And like, I was, paying my affiliate dues, and I was waving the banner, and, it was like, some of those conversations were hard to hear from him, because I'm like, whoa, like, this is just making me really have to rethink everything that I stand for. And being 90 years old, live long and prosper. Do you want to, like, on your 90th birthday, wake up, climb a mountain, have sex at, in the afternoon and, keel over after you orgasm? Like, is that how you want to go out? Like, that being that, vital, having that kind of libido, being able to move that much, like, okay, that's his dream, right? And it's like, okay, well, what's your dream today? And what's your dream in 5 years? And what makes you feel alive today? And what challenges you spiritually and emotionally and mentally and physically today? Yeah, it might not set you up for success at 90, but I'm like caught between this. Like, do we reverse engineer 90 years old being awesome at 90 and live in our life now to support that? Is that just like the ultimate delayed gratification? Like, I'm going to just like do everything so that I'm money at 90 right now. It's like, well, what about doing something today that makes you feel alive?
Yeah.
I'll be money today. I'm going to go and I'm going to smash this workout today. But it's like, I can go and have like cake and be like, this isn't good for me. I'm not making any, like, I'm not pretending like eating cake every day is a good thing, or even eating cake once a week is a good thing. It's sugar and it's refined starches and it's refined grains, and it's problematic for my body. But I'm going to eat it today, and it's going to make me feel good, and I'm going to enjoy it, and I'm going to see it for what it is.
Yeah.
And the same thing goes for, like,
doing a crazy workout.
Now, if you somehow turn that conversation or that argument in your head into, well, I can eat cake every single day.
Yeah.
Then you're losing touch, right? Or I can go to the gym 5 days a week on 4 hours of sleep and a stressful job and 3 young kids, and I can crush CrossFit workouts. Like, you are in for a painful awakening, at some point.
Yeah. When
the labrum snaps, or the hip flexor goes totally wonky, or your knee, collapses underneath 150-pound power clean, and you're like, what?
Yeah.
So
that was the road I was going down. Exactly what you're talking about, where I thought, I guess CrossFit does that a little bit to you, where I thought I was invincible. And I didn't realize I'm in my, at the time, mid 40s, probably, young 40. And I was just like, oh, can I, but this is making me into like this person. I'm invincible. And then it just, as I started having children, and it was like not getting this, all of a sudden the injuries started piling up.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, but wait a minute, I shouldn't be having these injuries. And it was like, yeah, that's what happens to the human body. And nothing's going to make you invincible. Like, you have to be really careful about rest, about recovery, about nutrition, about rehabbing. And so he opened my eyes a lot, which was great. You do, I'm trying to cram a lot in because I know you have another thing today, but you do
we're good till 3.
Okay. You do a lot of your own, I mean, you've got your own programming that you do, and that's how I'm aware of you from the games and everything, but I'm also aware of, like, I follow you on Instagram and all this stuff. And this is kind of a joke, but I'm kind of serious. Do you feel like you might be intimidating to other people? Like, people look at you and go, this guy's a freak. Like, you not just have CrossFit ability that got you to the games, made you one of the best in the world, but you're also built like a bodybuilder, that you have, you don't maybe have the mass of a bodybuilder of those, like, but you have body fat percentage, you have, definition and all that stuff like those guys have. And someone could look at you and go, oh my God, I want to look like this dude. Holy shit, he's like an Avenger. But then you go, and then they go, but I don't want to, there's a lot of work there. Like that.
Yeah.
That guy must bust his ass to get like that. And
well, I think it's an interesting question. And well, first it's interesting to look at the audience and, what the demographic of the audience that actually pays attention to me is. There's this misconception by certain people that are like, oh, you must have a ton of female followers, right? 17% of my followers are female, right? So guys are the ones, men out there who are like wanting to, they aspire to have maybe a different physique, or they love to train and they really like the concepts that I'm, that's who's tuning into what I'm doing. I also have to it also comes down to the messaging. I mean, you see, right? If someone's just scrolling and they see it, right, that might get them to click. It might get them to slow down, pay attention, but they might just keep going. But if you start to read the messages, if you start to actually get past like layer one of marketing, which is just Marcus shirtless in his backyard swinging kettlebells, and you get into layer 2, 3, 4, 5, and you start to really hear what I'm saying, I'm absolutely trying to always be transparent about, like, this is what it takes. It takes consistency, and you don't want to look like me. You want to look like a better version of yourself on the path to looking like me.
I want to look like you. I want to
totally.
Look like,
Totally. Yeah. No, I'm sorry. You're incorrect.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about. If there was a pill, I'd be taking it right now.
I actually have it bottled up. It's actually here in my office. But yeah, so people once they start to read into those next layers, then that's where I took a departure from CrossFit a few years back when I left, competing. And it wasn't because, like, I don't believe in some of the tenets of CrossFit and what it stood for as a brand and as a methodology, right? I kind of departed from the brand years before that, but the methodology was just like, look, I want to preach sustainability because that is what has allowed me to have the success that I've had. I've been doing this for 21 years. My first workout was in a gym in Marin County in Corte Madera. It was a Gold's Gym, and I went with my brother, and that was my indoctrination into the iron game. 21 years later, I'm still going, and I've always been in this pursuit of getting a little bit better. And sometimes I pushed it really hard, and I fell down, a cliff of injury or burnout, and then I kind of had to climb my way back. So I've been down this road of ups and downs. Most people go up, they go down, and then they're done. Right. Mm-hmm. Or they go up, down, they make a comeback, and then they get knocked down again. They're like, screw that. I don't want to go through that again. Or they ride this low level of mediocrity of like, I'm just not going to ever push myself. And they're never satisfied. Of like, I've been driving this thing uphill and making gains, albeit like in a curved line for 20 years. And those are the things that I talk so much about. It's like, look, let's stay on this path. Look, you can try, let's explore different ways of doing it that suit you at this stage of your life, that are going to help you next year. They're going to help you 10 years from now, that might actually get you to the 90-year you without saying that you can't be awesome today.
I notice you do a ton of variety. It's like, of all the programming I've seen, you change it up constantly. And I'm wondering, this is a cynical me. Is that out of, like, be honest with me, is that out of belief, or is that out of, like, the business? You have to constantly give new ideas and new concepts, or is that part of, like, because some guys will go, look, I have a goal. I want to do this. It's going to take a lot of clean and jerking, a lot of assault bike, and I'll be like I've watched some guys train that become top CrossFitters just working on their Olympic lifts and then just revving up their engine on an assault bike. And that's all they got to do. And it's that simple, and they just work hard doing that, grinding away. Whereas I see you doing such a variety of stuff, and it's that could be for aesthetics, that could be that you just believe in the muscle confusion or whatever it is. But I'm like, oh my God, there's like so much to learn and so much to know.
Yeah. Well, gosh, that's such a packed, loaded question.
Yeah, I know.
There's so
Sorry
much
about
to
that.
say on that. No, it's good. It's good. I'll address some of the things that you wouldn't expect me to say. And one is, like, absolutely. It's an important part of the business of fitness is attention grabbing. It's eyeballs. Like, I need people to watch.
Sure.
And if they don't watch, then I'll never teach them anything.
Right.
I might be that doctor who has the understanding of how to mix Western medicine and, nutritional therapies. And, I have that thing that we talked about, like that futuristic solution of bringing it all together in healthcare. But if no one listens to me, then guess what? Like, I'm not going to change anything. I'm not going to change anyone's mind. I truly believe I've got something to share with people that's profound and can really change them. And if they scroll past me, I'm losing in this game that is basically a virtual social media driven
Sure.
world.
Sure.
So yeah, like, do I have it down to like understand that, hey, if I show 10 different variations of a kettlebell swing, that's going to entice somebody to look because it's new. They see me do the clean and jerk for the 5,000th time, and I'm not lifting world record weights. Guess what? They're like, dude, it's just another dude doing clean and jerks.
Yeah.
Now, with that said, one of the best compliments I got from a colleague, and somebody in the fitness space that I admire a while back was, Marcus, you know what I love about what you do is like, you show a tremendous amount of variety, but you're not just making stuff up on a whim, and you're not just like pulling, tricks out of a hat. It's all based in fundamental strength and conditioning principles.
From somebody who follows fitness avidly because I do what I do, and I'm interested in it. There are a lot of guys out there doing party tricks, and they are fucking party tricks,
and they're good.
They are good, and it's like, hey, you're doing pull-ups while you're throwing a wall ball from your feet and then catching it in your feet. That's great, and it's absolutely.
I know who you're talking about. And I know exactly what you're talking about.
And I see it, and it's impressive. It's it's like a skateboarder doing a triple backflip, spinning, rotate. I commend you, and you caught me. I looked at it and I watched it, but I'm not saying you're doing that. You're doing something.
No, and I didn't feel like I was getting put in that bubble. No, but I do mean to say though,
the variety that you do is so much so that I'm going, look, you're doing something right. To look like you look, to compete as well as you competed, you know something that other people don't know. And
let's be clear. Like, when I competed, I didn't do as much variety as I do now, by any means. I was doing burpees, snatches, clean and jerks, squats, handstand push-ups, muscle ups, and then a lot of assault bike. Like, that was it, right? And to me, that was a very, very limited scope. That was like playing basketball. I had like one implement, and the game was to go in the hoop. Like, basketball is way more complex than that, but it was simple. Yeah. People think CrossFit's like, you got to be ready to climb a rope and swim in the ocean. It's like, dude, we all train on an assault bike, and we have a barbell and a rower, and that's pretty much all we freaking do all the time. Yeah. It's like we get good at like 10 things, right? Yeah. So that is when you get super narrow and you go super like deep into one discipline, there's not a lot of longevity in that. There's like, you peak, and it's like there's no ceiling. You can't raise the roof of the ceiling. You're getting marginal gains, and the marginal gains come at the expense of massive amounts of energy put into it, intensity and volume.
I think that's
so. I'm like, if somebody is,
Sean Sweeney said something like that to me once. I was talking about how there are the marginal gains, and I said, "How do you think you can win this year in the CrossFit Games?" This was a few years ago, and he goes, he almost said, and I don't want to say that he said, "No, I can't win," but he said, we basically know by like how much work we're putting in, what our gains, what we're getting, and what we're capable of, how much we're going to move up. And
I always hated the line in the interviews in the CrossFit documentaries where, like, somebody on the podium is like, I don't come here. If you're not coming here to win, then why are you even showing up? I'm like, fuck you, dude. There's no way I'm winning. I am not physically capable of winning the CrossFit Games, or physically, mentally, emotionally capable to put the pieces together to win. But I got here on the heels of some hard work, and I deserve to be here, and I want to compete. And I'm not going to be in the top 5, but screw you for making me feel like that's a bad thing.
What was your best finish?
12th place. And that was the culmination of like a 4-year run of building myself to that point at age 32.
How tall are you?
5'10".
5'10". So you're maybe an inch or two too tall.
I'm not the ideal specimen to win the CrossFit Games. I was the second oldest competitor that year. I had poured my heart and soul into the sport for 4 years to try and optimize my fitness. There was no technique or strategy piece that I wasn't implementing well. And I trained as much as I could. And I'm like, this is the best I got, and I think I beat Rich Froning in 1 or 2 workouts in my whole entire history. The one where he like almost passed out and like threw up, and like the one where he almost drowned. Like I got him.
Was that the run? The run where he
the run historic. That's the best. That's my best moment, was that when he decided to like walk maybe for the first or second time on that event, and the cameras really zoomed in. I was passing him at that moment. So all those videos and those clips, it's always me just like cruising by, just my yog. I'll be like, "What's up, Rich? you should have come out so hot, bro."
It's so
funny. Some runners instead of those nanos.
Any weird running or like workout I do where I'm running, and I feel like I'm dying and I want to quit. It used to be don't ever quit, and you got to have that mentality in your head. You can't quit. And now I have 2 things in my head. I think about Rich when I'm like, I want to quit, don't quit. And then I'm like, Rich Froning quit. like I can
like I either needed to walk or I was going to pass out. Yeah. I chose walking.
I was like, I can walk. Rich walked, And then I think about my buddy Hunter McIntyre, who tried to break the Murph, or did break the Murph world record this year. And in the Murph world record, in his last mile, he stopped and walked for a second. And I was like, we all die. Like we all can break. Like there's the best Murph time in the world. Mm-hmm. And he cracked.
Yeah.
He cracked in the middle of it. Like, or in the end of it. Like, so it almost gives me this out now that I never wanted, because you want to like never give up. And I'm like, no, even the best give up. I think I'm gonna stop right now. I'm a father of 2. I tell jokes for a living. I think I can quit climbing this mountain right now.
Yeah, I mean, when I look at my training, and this is like another big misconception, is that people see what people look like aesthetically and they equate that to performance. They're like, "Man, Marcus, you look great. Like you still think you could like make it to the games?" And I'm like, no way. Like I am so far removed from competitive shape and fitness. I think I would do okay at like a local throwdown, but if I did the open, man, I would just be, punishing for me. I mean, because I don't push myself that way in my training anymore at all. Like I don't get close to the pain cave. Like I'm 100% like stay in the sustainable zone. The only the closest I get to the pain cave is, trying to get to the top of the mountain over here when I go on my mountain bike rides, and I'm like 2 minutes of like an uphill sprint or, high pace.
Well, I was going to say, you look at, and I don't want to credit, like make fun of, but Matt Fraser does not have the aesthetically, the body. He's not going to be a male model. No one's going to go, no one's going to put Matt Fraser in an underwear ad. Like not, that's not the body of a, and CrossFit used to claim to fame used to be, hey, we're going to get you in ridiculously good shape. And by the way, you'll look good too. And it's like, I'm not saying Matt looks bad, but
right. But he'd admit it too. He knows he's not like, and he knows, honestly, he knows that if he were to like try and look better and like,
it would probably hurt his performance.
It would definitely hurt his performance.
Yeah.
I think there was a whole contingent of CrossFit athletes, probably still to this day, we got into the sport by way of bodybuilding or like training for aesthetics. And we kind of held on to like, I want to look a certain way. Mm-hmm. And we weren't I was not ready to just let it all go at the, in the name of performance. Like, and I probably with that, like in my subconscious, I probably made choices early on in my nutrition and how I, fueled myself to be like, I want to make sure I have abs, and I'm not going to just like, I don't need to recover that bad. Like I got to keep these, I got to keep looking tight. Right. Yeah. And that got beat out of me later on as I like went further into the sport. I'm like, whoa, it makes a hell of a difference. And I just posted something recently on my story. And it was like a side-by-side comparison of like my last year of competing and like today. And it was like, 12 pounds difference, a little bit puffier, a lot bigger, little, I was still defined, I had muscle definition, but I was a little smoother. And it was just like, you could just see in my face, like there was just a puff factor. I was like, I was doing everything possible to try and eke out those last, few pounds of a snatch and back squat and the few seconds on my Fran times and just maximize performance by just fueling myself with tons and tons of sugar all the time.
Yep.
To just keep the engine running.
It's so
and now it's like I don't need that.
It's so funny you said
it's counterproductive.
I got to see Hunter McIntyre go from obstacle course racing to try to make it to CrossFit, and when he got to compete in the games, and he knew, he was a little guy. He was like 180 or something, and for being 6'2", that's small frame. And he knew he had to start heavy lifting and pack on and eating carbs like crazy. And he was always kind of a carb guy because of all the running he was doing.
Yeah.
But now there was all the lifting, and he got puffy, and big, and there was this, and I'll say it to his face, he looks a lot better before he started CrossFitting to when he CrossFitted, because he just became a giant, lifting. And that's why, probably the lack of body fat, or I mean, the amount of body fat is helps Matt Fraser. And I'm not saying he's fat by any means. The guy's probably like 10% body fat, but
nobody would look at him and be like, oh, that dude's shredded.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
They look at me and they say that, but it's like, okay, well, how does body composition and the pursuit of performance, in fitness, how do they play together? And it was like, I think a lot of people in the CrossFit community got this notion of if I'm not going super intense, if I'm not pushing it as hard as I can, I'm not going to get the body I want. And that is very flawed. And that was a big, big thing that drove, it's driven a lot of my messaging in the last years. Not only is pushing yourself to the max in the pursuit of just heavier weights and faster times, potentially going to burn you out and at some point be at odds with your lifestyle and lead to injury, etc. But it's also not necessarily the road to better composition of your, body composition that the vast majority of people want first and foremost. They're like, hey, do you want to be 10 to 15% body fat, or would you like to have a 400-pound squat? What do you think the numbers on that are going to be? Right?
Yeah.
It's crazy. Everyone comes to the gym. I want to look better. Oh yeah. And I want to feel stronger.
Yeah.
So, and here we are telling them to go and follow this high intensity, high volume training program, which does what to people? It jacks up their need for sugars, right? They crave it a lot. They have a hard time managing appetite control. Their energy is so poured into this high intensity work that they're doing in the gym that they lose energy outside the gym. Therefore, their non-exercise activity goes through the floor. And then over time, they're so burnt out that they just don't move. They sit around the couch, and the only, purposeful movement they have is their time in the gym. And their energy balance is out of whack now because they're craving sugars, they're craving salts, they're craving, junk food because they're undernourished because they've been trying to do a cut, and then they're eating too much, and then they're not moving, and they're like, why am I puffy and why have I gained some weight? It's because you're in this system that's just designed to make that happen. Because you're in a survival system. You're not in a optimization system.
I watch sometimes. You still go heavy though. I watch you. I mean, heavy.
Relative.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah,
for
relative,
me, it's
right? Yeah. I tested my 1RM snatch, or I built up to a heavy snatch the other day, and it took all of my everything technique. I snatched 225, which I'm proud of, but I snatched 225 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And I had a best of 285. And that was only 3 years ago.
It's a little frustrating, isn't it, to see that go down? Because I've had it.
It is a little bit. The numbers that are, the Olympic lifts are interesting because they make me so I'm so I know that a lot goes into that, from base strength to technique work to consistency and training it. And I'm okay, I could see how my Olympic lifts could fall off because I don't do them that much. I don't do them to that level. But when I get under a squat, that's 100 pounds off my personal best, or 150 pounds. And I'm like, man, this is kind of tough.
Yeah.
I'm like, shit, that's hard.
Ronnie Teasdale said something once that made a lot of sense to me. He said, I like to do a lot of base testing, where I'll go test a lift that I've done. And if I'm within 10% of what I was a year before, I don't work on it. He's because there's so many other things in life to learn that I'd rather spend my time on that if I can keep that and maintain that somewhat near where it was, then why keep hammering that? Why don't do things because you like it? Like,
I've heard that from him before. And, I think that's actually, I like that, and I'm in the process of kind of setting new benchmarks for myself that I think are reasonable, not like too far fetched, but I'm also not just like comfortably sitting, complacent and saying like, these might be benchmarked within, let's say, strength numbers or endurance numbers that I want to hold on to for, another decade or more, just kind of prolong. Cause like my personal bests in CrossFit are just once I'm not training, 30 hours a week, like it's just unrealistic for me to think I'm going to hold on to them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't, it might hurt my ego a little bit to be like, man, I can't snatch as much as I used to, but any logical sense is like, well, that's just not practical. I couldn't do that now.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense that I would. So setting new benchmarks that like, we don't let dip more than 10% or 5 to 10% over a course of a year. I think that's important. Just like people, I think they should weigh themselves, regularly.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a lot of fear around the scale. I don't want to step on the scale. I don't want to see what the number is. It's like, well, let's normalize your body weight, because body weight is a predictor of, health and longevity by itself. Even though there's flaws within just looking at body weight as the only metric, it's still a powerful tool. And, somebody's like, oh, I put on 15 pounds. It's like, I don't hear people putting on 15 pounds that weigh themselves consistently. You weigh yourself regularly. You just see that number. You're like, oh, I'm up 5 pounds. I'm going to make it. Right. But if you're like, I didn't really pay attention, I knew something was off, I was kind of scared to look, and I'm 20 pounds heavier. It's like, that's a big, big delta. And you got to now change directions. And that's going to be super hard. It's going to be much harder than trying to, recalibrate for 5 pounds that you put on over the course of the last 3 months.
Right. I know. I didn't think about that. That is because I was always like, don't worry about weight, worry about your body fat. But it is a good metric, and it does let you see that it is getting out of whack and that you should pay attention to it.
The people that say it's a bad metric are like, just remember what small segment of the population we are. We're people that are like trying to change our body composition at 180 pounds as men. It's like we want to go from 18% body fat down to 15% body fat, and we weigh 180 pounds. And it's like, well, don't look at the scale, right? Because you could re-body cut. It's like, no, forget that group. Think about just a general person who's like who's not exercising that much. It's like they're the ones that literally have a tough year where they have a baby and their life gets out of whack. And a year goes by, they start a new job. 2 years goes by, I'm 30 pounds heavier than I was 2 years ago.
I'm always jealous of those people, though, because they get to when they gain 30 pounds, it's so easy for them to lose 20 then. It's my whole life.
It can be.
It's my whole life.
You think it's easy, but it's not easy.
I work on that 10. The final 10 is always the hard one. And my weight fluctuates. I fluctuate from like 168 to probably 175 my whole life. And, or not my whole life, but since college. And so that weight is just such a struggle. Whereas I'll have buddies that are like, so I was up to 250. I got down to 190, and I'm like, what?
What? How does that even work?
Yeah. How does that? But it does, and it works.
It does.
And it's easy.
Yeah, but that road to 250 was brutal, and it probably took years off his life or her life. And then the way back down is empowering. But then it also sets this like, this thought pattern of like, well, I can do it.
Yeah.
It's no big deal. And you see these people yo-yo like that, I was at my parents' house. We were talking about friends of ours who probably collectively between the couple have gained and lost like a ton in their lifetime.
That's
like
insane.
They've literally had 100 pounds ups and downs 8 to 10 times.
What? And I'm not picking on people that gain weight right now. I don't want to feel like I am or shaming them in any way, because like I gain weight and I can get a little like puffy and it probably happens from, partying a little too much, whatever it has been in my life. It not really anymore, because I've just given everything up, but I don't understand the whole concept though of, and this is just, I don't understand how they can gain so much weight, because when I try to gain weight, I just get indigestion, or like it's uncomfortable to eat like that or to have that much food. And I always feel like what I'm trying to say is I have a little bit of sympathy for them because I feel like it's deeper than just eating. It's psychological. It's there's so many aspects to it, cortisol, stress, whatever, because I just find it hard to gain weight. And I know people are like, oh, shut the fuck up. You know, like that. Yeah, well, couldn't we all be so lucky? I'm just saying when I want to gain weight, it hurts. It's like uncomfortable. So, and they do it
our patterns in our lives and our habits around food and the consumption of energy and the expenditure of energy, how it feels in our bodies to have a lot of food in it, how it feels to go periods of time without eating, you know, what feels like constitutes a day of movement and what feels like a lot of activity or little activity, you know, how our emotions and our social interactions are connected to food. This starts from a very early age, right? And so somebody who has been around this, you know, around culture of overconsumption and, you know, mixing consumption with every social activity, and that the idea of moving in a day is limited to, you know, walking, you know, to the end of the driveway and back. That's a big movement day. Like that's a cultural thing that they've been brought up in for years, right? And even people that like, I went into college one way, I came out of college another way. It's like you developed a new culture and a new relationship to food, movement, and, you know, the ingestion of substance and sleep, et cetera, over a 4-year period. And now you're at the end of it and you're like, how do I get back to my old self? It's like you have to start this new patterning for the next 4 years where you unlearn what you learned.
Yeah.
And that is like, you grew up probably not, you know, overeating, over consuming, gorging yourself, being in an environment that it was like, you know, we wear like with pride how many pieces of pizza we had and that we ate all the chicken wings on the plate. It's like you moved, I don't know. I'm just making
I see what you're saying. I never thought of that. And that it is cultural and that it's like in my culture, it was, hey, let's go out and do like some kind of hard, crazy workout. Like, and that was exciting.
Yeah.
And some people go, why would you want to do that to yourself? Why would you want to run a marathon? And I'm like, that's what we do. It's fun.
That's what
we
did.
It's fun to put us in that pain. Whereas it's that pain of like eating so much that you're sitting there on the couch going, I can't move. That's fun for them. And that's part of their call. I get it now.
And it doesn't even feel like I can't move. It's just like, it's a Saturday. You are going out with friends to run 10 miles and they're like, putting on an event at the park with all of their family friends where they, you know, cater a really big, fun, festive meal. And they do that every weekend because that's community, that's family, that's entertainment. That's how they spend their time, you know?
And I've always found that, I don't want to criticize my wife's family, but and this is a lot of American culture, is that everything's focused around the table, like sitting together as a family around the table. And that becomes an event. And to me, I always ate to live. I didn't live to eat. And it was just like, oh, food, time to eat, that takes out from fun time. Like, oh my God, I got to stop to eat. That means
it's no mystery. It's no mystery that you have a hard time, that you're a hard gainer, right?
Yeah.
I'm on the other end of the spectrum. Like I grew up around food being a central thing and a lot of, you know, social environments and family environments where that was like, it was easy for me. And I mean, I never got really overweight, but like there was a period of time after college where I'd suffered a pretty bad injury. I wasn't in a really good place. I was kind of dreading this like impending medical school thing. And I was just like, I had a bad relationship with food. And, you know, it was like a daily occurrence that I'd just like be vegging out on the couch every night, watching God knows what I was watching until 1 a.m, just eating all manner of healthy snacks, but just gorging myself. And like, that was the pattern I got into. And I'm like looking back on that now, it's like, wow, that's just it's a pattern that I was in and it ran its course for 6-9 months. And I probably put on 20 pounds after college. And I'm like, I got to change this. And it can happen that way if you were exposed to that. And that's like, okay, that's a way of coping with a certain feeling or getting some comfort or whatever.
Sure.
And if you're
anyhow. A measurer though. You measure your food, don't you?
I do. It was interesting because, like, so following that, post college kind of up and down phase, like, I got into measuring food back then in a pretty unhealthy way where I was like, and by unhealthy, it was just uninformed. I wasn't educated. I didn't know what I was doing. I just followed somebody else's plan for me. And what it led to was me chronically under eating for a period of time, I underate for long enough to get ripped. Then I kept under eating because I was like, this is the only way to maintain, abs, not realizing that like I could eat more and still maintain an aesthetic because I was like way undernourished, which then led to cravings and led to overeating. And then it led to this sort of like binging. And then like, okay, I got to cut calories for days and doing that for a period of time, body image issues, et cetera. Like, so that was like let's call it a 2-year period of like not feeling optimal about my body and about my relationship to food. And then pinning it a bit on, that was when I was like super measured about everything.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want to do the measuring thing anymore. I kind of blamed the measuring thing. And that's when I like got introduced to CrossFit. I got introduced to the paleo solution. I got introduced to Rob Wolf, and I was like, okay, cool. I can go totally qualitative on this. I can pick the right foods, eat as much as I feel like I need at any given time. And look, I can change my body that way. Great. I'm all about quality. I'm all about just listening to your intuition. Remember, Marcus, your 20-year-old self had a really bad experience with counting, so don't do that anymore. So I kind of was on that kick for years. And I mean, as a competitive athlete in CrossFit, by making good quality food choices and then just sort of training as much as I trained, like I didn't really need to count. The only thing I ever needed to count was like in 2014 or 13 when it was like, hey, you need to stop eating low carb. That's just not good. You need to get this many carbs in. I had to be paying attention to a quantity factor of it. But even then it was just sort of like a loose, intuitive, like, okay, I'm going to have more rice. I'm going to have a little bit more ice cream to help me recover. And it wasn't until like I kind of stopped competing about 2 years, a year and a half after, that I started to look more into the measured weight and measured approach to food on the heels of now 6-7 years of like a qualitative approach to eating well, understanding better quality food and having a ton more knowledge. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to go back to this thing and sort of experiment and explore what that really means to count, measure, and look at macros. And because so many people are talking about it. Mm-hmm. Here I was like, in a nutrition education world that was being flooded by people just saying, here are your numbers, here are your macros, if it fits your macros. Like they were going all in on the numbers. I was like, why the hell is everyone wanting to go back to this counting calories thing? Like that was devastating to me 10, 15 years ago. Like, I don't want to do that. Okay, well, but people want to know about it. Okay, let me engage in that conversation. Let me understand it better. And it was, it's been a couple of years of like really trying to rewrite the script that I had in my brain about what it meant to count calories now in the context of much better nutritional knowledge, education, experience, quality foods, and also being able to help clients that have because I didn't realize how important it was for me to have the experience of counting things back when I did to inform some of the decisions I have now. I mean, I knew what protein, where it came from, how much to get without having to think too much about it because I tracked it for so long. And I'm like, that's a tool that many of my clients don't even have.
They've I've been following nutrition practically my whole life. But when I started tracking my macros, it was this revelation of like, oh my God, like I am so off what I should be doing. And this explains everything. The fact that I eat, too much fat, not enough protein. I always had the don't worry about the fat. Don't, just as long as you're eating protein, worry about the carbs. And I was like, whoa. I'm going a little bit overboard on the carbs. Way overboard on the fat and not enough on the protein. Like, and it was just a simple like revelation of like, sounds like I just need a lot more protein in my diet. And if I would get the protein in, all of a sudden I wouldn't have the cravings. I wouldn't be eating so much fat. And I need like, I'll minimize those carbs, and because my body pretty much knows how many calories it needs, and it goes, you're full, you got what you needed, but you're putting in disproportionately. So just change that one. As soon as you add more of that, you're going to eat less of the others. But it had to be seen. Like, I would not have seen it unless I counted them.
And we're in a culture that is so far and removed from what our systems and our hormones and our brains evolved around, right? Like, I was very into the ancestral concepts of nutrition. Just get the right quality foods. You're going to be, but we're surrounded by, advertising, marketing, plentiful, food options everywhere you turn. Everyone wants to feed you something and take advantage of the fact that we have brain centers and hormonal signals that make us crave sugars when we're exposed to them. It's like we're in a whole new world of food. And for those people that want to be health conscious and, be able to take control of their bodies in certain ways and manipulate the way they look and, add to the longevity of their life, then it's almost a requirement. I feel like it should be a study in school where you have to learn about food science a bit to understand what you're getting in your food, because you can't trust what's out there. Like, you could even vendors and purveyors of good organic food, anybody can say that. It's like
sad.
there's no standard for like, hey, this is how you need to go. And this is the prerequisite knowledge you need to go and feed yourself for life. We need that out there.
I'll tell you, there's a little hope for the future. My nephew one day was asking me about grass-fed beef, and not just like he was going deeper than grass finished and grass-fed, grain finished. He was going into all these different standards, and he was asking me about mine. And I'm pretty strict about my meat and everything, but occasionally I used to eat U.S. Wellness meat all the time and go through them to get my meat, and really, really cared. And every once in a while, I'm like, I'll just go get bison from Costco or get this from blah, blah, blah. Wherever I was getting it, sometimes it was on paper, it looked good. But if you really did a deep dive into it, you'd go, oh, this is shit. You're just, you think you're eating perfect, but you're not.
Yeah.
And my nephew started slamming me one day, and he's like 10 years old. And he's telling me about all these standards, and he's like, you got to look for this. There are these little like stamps of this, and this. And I was like, holy shit, where'd you? And he's like, they teach us this in school. And I was like,
that's cool.
Well, I'm so glad to know.
Yeah, I think there's an age where I do want my daughters to learn about that stuff. And then it's also like I want to protect them from like, I don't want food to be like this obsessive thing for them at any point.
It's a hard balance. Yeah.
And my wife and I will both do some counting and some tracking, and it's like we shield them from that as in every way possible. It's like I don't want them to see daddy weighing his potatoes. Like, why daddy, what are you doing?
Yeah.
They help me weigh my coffee beans because they love to help me make coffee in the morning. So like, my littlest daughter's like, daddy, beans. And so she like comes over and she wants to pour the beans on the scale so we can make coffee, but we'll keep it at that.
What I try to do with my kids is when we talk about food, every choice is always because it's healthy. Like when they say, why, I never say eat this so that, you'll be skinny or this is the healthier option. This is going to be good for you. You're going to live long and strong. And that's why you want to eat it. And so I just never talk, and just other like it's so hard to keep kids away from sugar. It's just, it's a drug. And once they get it and they have a taste of it, they know what it does and they love it. And and I don't know the right and wrong way to do it because I've got two kids that want it constantly. I don't give it to them constantly, but we give them a little bit because I don't want to be that crazy person.
Sure.
But
it's like what we subscribe to the, here are your options. You can eat as much or as little of anything that you want that we've given you options for. And we like to make sure that they have at least one option on the plate that we know they're going to like. So if it's like, here's a hard boiled egg, here's some cheese, and here's some vegetables and some dried mango, and they ask for, 4 refills on the dried mango, it's in the context of other food that they have an option to eat, and we'll let them make those choices.
It's a really hard thing though. And
it's super hard. Yeah.
And during the holidays, it was incredibly hard to be around grandparents that are just shoving crap in them, and I'm just sitting there like cringing, just like, like aunts and uncles going, here, I just got you this, and you want ice cream, and we're gonna drive out, and I'm like, oh, and I'm like, we gotta get out of here. Like but then I look back to, and I was a child of, like eat anything you want.
And we're doing okay.
Yeah. So, this was awesome. Great talking to you.
Likewise.
And look, you only finished 12th at the CrossFit Games, but you still had a better body than Rich Froning, so that probably upset him. Surprised he didn't ban you from his gym.
Well, my last year was Fraser's
first.
Yeah, it was his first victory. So Rich was already out.
I just watched the they did one of the CrossFit, when they announced the open announcements, and they had guys go when they were doing the head-to-heads, and I just saw the one where Rich and Matt went head-to-head, and Rich beat Matt. Yeah, and it was funny to watch because Matt's a different guy.
Totally.
And I've been egging it on. I like them both. They're both great guys. But I've been egging it on. I want a pay-per-view. $1 million, Rich versus Matt. And everybody's like, Matt's in his prime. I'm like, Rich is not out. Do not count out Rich Froning. Like, that's what people don't understand. I'm like, he finished 15th in the Open this year.
Seriously,
the guy's not out. Put $1 million up. We'll see.
Yeah, right.
It would be fun to watch. Hey, thanks for your time. So good to know and finally meet you. Where I follow your Instagram, but and your programming looks exceptional. So where can people find it?
Well, definitely check me out on Instagram. I mean, that's got links to everything that's relevant right now and in my bio. But my company and my website, revival-strength.com, and heading over there and signing up for my email list is how you can get some free content, some free workouts and nutrition guides. And then I send out like weekly emails on training and nutrition topics. So this is where I kind of get into more long form education. I talked about the layers of marketing that we do. It's like, if you can get past just the shirtless workout demos, and then you can get into some of the captions, and then you can get into the emails, and then you can get into some of our longer form content. Like that's where it lives. So I'd welcome people to come and check that out and sign up. It's such a, I put a tremendous amount of work into those.
You can tell
editorials every week. So
you can tell your stuff is top quality. It's really, really, really good stuff. And I've had people recommend you to me. They're like, "Oh, you want to start?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I know. I follow you."
Cool.
And they're like,
cool.
"Oh, good," because he knows his shit. So
you're like, "Yo, I've been on this train for 10 years."
Yeah,
okay?
I know. It's just a very, very good, like, it's a road of training that many, many people in this world need. And
for sure.
And so I think it's great. Is it Marcus Philly, Filly, at Marcus
That's
Philly
right.
on Instagram? Okay.
That's
so
it.
Find them.
And on YouTube, you can check it out on YouTube too. And Eddie, next time you're up here in the Bay Area, you come to Marin, I'm still around.
Okay.
And hopefully our gym is open and you can come and train and you can get a good workout in at the new facility, not the TJ's gym facility.
So what gym will this be? Revival?
So I've had a gym, Revival Strength.
Okay.
We're rebranding Functional Bodybuilding Headquarters, but same space. It's here in San Rafael, so just up the freeway from
Okay,
Mill Valley.
so you're San Rafael. Is that where Kelly's place is?
Yeah, Kelly just opened up a new spot about, a few miles from where we are. He lives just across the freeway from us.
Okay, because I've been to Kelly's and Mackenzie was up there. I think Mackenzie left again. He's like always in a new place.
He's a nomad. He just kind of,
I think he went to Texas. I got to find out. But I went to Brian's place up there. Was he living in San Rafael?
I think so. That was the rumor I had heard.
My one of my best friends in the world grew up in San Rafael, and a comedian named Arj Barker, and he was Dave in the Flight of the Conchords, and
right on.
Yeah, and so I used to go to what's the high school there, San Rafael.
San Rafael High.
What's their mascot though? I forget because I would go.
Bulldogs.
Something like that. I would go take pictures in front of, when I was there, I would take pictures in front of his high. He's like, what are you doing there? I'm like,
Man, all the high schools around here have been renovated, and they're all looking really nice. That one's looking particularly nice.
It's a great area up there. I love it. I mean,
Yeah.
the Mill Valley reminds me a little bit of where I live, and I could live there. I keep saying I'm going to do the Dipsy and run the Dipsy.
Yeah, that's on my list for sure. I've never done it, but
I say we
everyone's done it.
I say we do it. I'll run it with you. I have an old girlfriend from high school, like a friend that wants to do it, and she lives there in the Mill Valley, and I'm doing it for sure. But it's so hard to get into.
So hard to get into.
So hard. So maybe we'll just run our own.
Yeah,
I've run parts.
Totally fine.
I've run parts of the trail, and it's awesome.
Yeah,
but
it is awesome and brutal for sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, thank you very much, and good luck with everything. And everybody else, rate, review, comment on iTunes. Check us out on YouTube now. Nobody's doing that. Please go to the YouTube. Everybody listens. Nobody watches.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Marcus.
Later, Eddie.
Appreciate it. Later.